this meeting as well, but we're going to bridge this together. Recording features.
Kurt, before you record, if you made Emily a co, so she's able to work. Emily needs to be co-host as well.
Yeah. Well, here we go. All right, here we go.
Press.
And then we're going to the host. Folks, enjoy the show. Emily, take it away.
Here.
All right. Good morning, everyone. How are you today? Well, as you can tell, I'm a little raspy, but I'm here because it's and today is important. Today is all about word and tone matter, and they really do. With my tagline, with all the internet talking about what autism is about, Aspie Bridge is to show us that we can connect to society, but we need a little help doing. Did I say that correctly, Susan? All right, cool. Thank you. Out talking about autism, you can Sam in the UK, that are in the US alone, talking about autism. Person telling you what it's about. And here we go. And it is think twice, speak, where your words can plant the seed of success and of another. So it goes to say that if your expectation of the person is low, you're going to low personality. You're going to get a unconfident personality. You're going to get someone who's going to be all tucked up in themselves. But if you can rise to the occasion and help them to speak more clearly, then you're going to find that they're going to rise up and they're going to be the person that they can be. Now, Aspies come with all different levels of communication, talking about the quantity of words that they share. We're talking about the quality of their day. Are they in there complaining? Are they whining? Are they sitting and talking out? I have Sandra here. This is a two-way bridge. And women to cross over the bridge once they are ready. Once they're ready to become part of society. And they need to rise to the occasion. They can't just speak in their little group complaining or expect the society is going to accept them. They really need. I demand respect. I have great ideas. Please listen to me. And that's where Sandra's going to come in and help. On the other side, I have Susan, who's going to help society understand that when society can change, intonation can be more to succeed, to thrive, to come out on top, to feel more empowered. And that's where Susan comes in. She's great at empowerment. And that what you need to do is you need to expect that the Aspie woman is going to take some time processing as a society. She's not going to give you the best language. She's going to have the best answer. And we're going to go into that more as we come up through our conversation. But so I'm going to start with Sandra. And Sandra and I are going to kind of mock the wrong way and the right way to communicate as an Aspie woman. Because as I say, if you're not bringing yourself forward, not the neurotypical best self, your best, you are not going to receive the respect you deserve, no matter how many wonderful voice, excuse my voice, clear voice, people aren't going to understand you. If they're going to give you 5 seconds or more, we're going to work on that with Susan, but they can't understand. So Sandra, where that the posture of the receive more positive attention and receive opportunities she deserves. Can you teach us what you think might be necessary for her to change her delivery and receive more opportunities?
Suzanne, this is a wonderful mix here, having Suzanne, and Sandra, 3 S's. I think I'm going to answer ever since I was born. I've been singing since I was 5. I've been a school teacher, and now I'm doing coaching and speaking. But the truth of the matter is, I imagine Susan will be the same. And really, when we were told to be quiet, or we were told to children should be not heard. Now I'm much older than Susan, but in that kind of a capacity, what are people going to think? Oh, what are they thinking about me? Even with me being so outgoing on the outside, I was feeling the pain of I'm not good enough. I can't be heard. I'm quiet. I can't speak up. So inside, my voice was very much when you were saying, that's who I was. I don't know about Susan. You can nod if you ever had that feeling like I was the little one inside. Because we've been being Aspie, possibly from what I've learned from Suzanne, maybe possibly feels like now I'm the adult, but I'm still hiding like this. And so when you start to fake it till you make it, you see Sandra, you see Suzanne, you see how Suzanne just, it didn't come naturally. Suzanne, I was like that, and if other people are going to listen, I'm going to have to throw my shoulders back, my head up. I had to learn my head up and just smile. For decades, because I'm an old, I've got a lot of decades. For decades, I tended it. And I would hold my head up and people just thought I would always have a smile on my face. It was really a good start. Walk straight, no matter what you're feeling and doing it, you start to feel your own personal power. And it might be just a little seed at the beginning, but it grows and grows and grows. Exam has been meeting Susan because life is a series of decisions by minute. I am deciding I am worthy. I am deciding I do have something to say. I am deciding just as much as Susan or Suzanne or Emily or anyone else in this world to breathe this air and to drink this water and be on this earth with whatever I bring. So that, as you can see, is all a mental. And once you overcome the mental step, fake it till you make it, deep, you won't need to be like this even inside anymore, because you know in your heart, I am a complete person with things to bring to the world from wherever I am.
Oh, Sandra, that's awesome. And what I found from my own personal situation, when we have family members who have a voice, we can be squelched down. We can be told, as you said, to be quiet. And for 18 years, somehow it was more important than the outside world. That's when I said, whoa, I went 3 hours away because there was no other way for me to find my voice. And so just like you did, we need to find our voice, but we need to command respect in our voices in order to be heard. Susan, thank you today. How can we help industry leaders understand on the spectrum? May not, and they may have great eye contact. The tone is accusing or demanding. It will not shut down people who quick might have the very solution that we need.
First of all, everything that both of you just said so much. And Sandra, I don't know NLP, but when you talked about like that and you put on that smile, that's, and one of the things, for example, if anybody's child or small has ever had a temper tantrum, if you can convince them during that tantrum to smile, the tantrum will end. So I want you to do it with a weird smile, just the weirdest smile you can do, weirdest smile, and you start laughing, and the tantrum's gone. And said Suzanne, I mean that was my grew up. I was and Sandra as well. I grew up, as this, the brother a year older than me, and everything he said was brilliant, and I heard. And you went 3 hours away. I was in Saskatchewan at the time. I left. I went to Ontario, and then I went to California. I get no respect from my family. They don't know who I am. They still think I'm always supposed to be seen and not heard. And I've got doctors who will ask me for devices and biologics for instance, and my family, that I don't know anything, and I think I'm a doctor. I don't think I'm a doctor. I have a certain base of knowledge that I'm respected for in the industry, across, United States and Canada, but you have to.
Isn't it wonderful when we came from? So look how awesome I am now that I've chosen to be my own voice.
Yes, but there is still that issue in the corporate world. Grew up in that era. We've gone from the industrial era, and then Stephen Covey in his book, The Eighth Habit, the 7 habits. I mean, they're good, but we're now in the information age, and things are hierarchy, is no longer serving us the way it used to. The hierarchy was helpful when there were people who didn't have enough information, who didn't have their own voice to speak. And now we've got people who have the internet brought information to everybody, whether they but gone beyond that. And we've got Tom Peters now talking about the air and how important it is. So here we are. We've gone from the industrial age, information age, to the era of humanism. But most of our top executives that are, for the most part, men who grew up in the industrial era.
Wow.
And so we really, resources talking, it's just, they're well, no, you have to have these people speak to this person who's going to be hire them. Realize that we actually would like to interview our manager. We would like to find out his background, and we'd like to actually be a true part of the interview process, and help uncover, whether companies are better than others.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of empowered communication and it really helps people where Sandra was talking about faster. and where Suzanne was talking about. So there are exercises in that book and the teachings in that help you to connect with yourself better, to understand what is your current belief structure. Because we've adopted a lot of these beliefs from our, from the parents, decades ago, and who said, we're supposed to be seen and not heard. And they've got, if a man, authoritative voice, well, that's expected. And if a woman speaks in that authoritative voice, what a bitch. And so, and we have to acknowledge with it, first we have to know ourselves, have that inner confidence. And then we also have to understand that other people have adopted beliefs they didn't necessarily agree with. And so rather than judge them for being jerks, we do need to come for everyone, a place of compassion, understanding. And so when we all listen, there are always, like one person is, unless one person's just on the other, it's a two-way. And so, one of the things that I used to be helpful, I used to have, I had a boss who, if I wanted anything done, he tended to come from this place of anger. And so what I would do is I'd call him and I'd say, how's your day going? And when I definitely appreciate that. And then at some point he'd say, well, what'd you call me for? Oh, well, I wanted to ask, I need that space and get past whatever he was doing. But if I tried to say, hey, I need this, and he'd been trying to talk, and we get into it, and we'd never get anything done.
So that is a skill that the Aspies can also use, not just.
Yeah.
That's what everyone can use. Just listen and let it roll out first. Let it even spill all over you. You've got a little protective around it. It just rolls off, you water off the duck. You've got an oil shield. So let them do their thing. And when they've got that, okay, wow, that you got to feel better. About this and that. So it really weighs, Susan, that we have to be able to stay in our own awesomeness, our own place. Let that all run off. Get it all run out. They're going to be tired. Okay, I've done my best.
Is right.
That's the last man. That's what I call the last man standing, or the last woman standing. Just let it roll.
Well, we all know fear.
Yes.
And people crying is emotion. Oh, women, they're so emotional. Well, anger is an emotion. And I remember, I was kind of, people always see me as being more masculine. And I think that's because 5 years just that he hadn't really listened, both sides of the story and knew what really happened. I just, in that moment, I got angry to cry. And, I would get angry coming from, they're not allowed to cry, so they have to get angry.
Right.
But there's a little boy in there, and, we, no matter who we're dealing with, the bully is in fear. He's trying to express something to prevent being bullied himself.
Oh gosh, yes. I have a question that comes up further, but I brought out two quick little stories I wanted to share with you. One of them happened 30 years ago, and here I was, this life, we're sitting at the table and not knowing that I could just speak up and get up on the table and say, listen to me. I was out at Harvard actually listening to me. Now here my brothers are going to Brent. I went to Plymouth State in New Hampshire, and they had to listen to me. But I'm talking to Harvard women, and the two of them said I was we're all in rapture with what I was saying, and they're like, that's still to their day. Now I just went out for a Christmas dinner, brothers, and I'm starting to talk about some of the things that I learned in my organization, right? And they're like, whoa, that's too deep for me. So I'm just like, where did I go in that little, ooh, I can't, it's just kind of a, huh. I can't understand how I went from one extreme so quickly, but I found this, and I found my kids, and who I was, and I found an organization that supported my ideas, and I felt so much better. Let's go on to the next question. Can we help both sides know when to speak up and when to keep comments to themselves? I have my experiences as currently, I will go and offer something nice to someone. And it's not perfect if it doesn't meet their exact needs, rather than, well, it's free, buy it, so I should just keep my mouth shut. And instead, it's like, oh, it's not for me. And it's like, huh, that's really interesting that you think that it's okay critical of something that's been given to you. And that's part of we may not have patience, but we to be attacked with criticism because we're Aspie. We think we're less than. I won't accept that. I deserve respect. And if I'm going to offer something wonderful to you, kiss my feet, but I do zipped and when to say, I really need to find something for myself that's better because it's not working for me. Well, okay, that's a completely than being critical of what I gave you. So my question again is, how can we help people on both sides of the bridge understand that some comments don't need to be vocalized?
Most amazing exercise that we workshops, and it kind of, and we'll have other groups, or you can even do it in pairs, and you've got one person who's receiving a criticism and one criticism, and the receiver, after listening to the criticism, in their mind considers, I didn't necessarily ask. I didn't give them authority to criticize me in this way, and I'm over it. And so the place, I'm interested in understanding where this belief you have comes from. What's your judgment? And it is like a judgment.
Oh,
and so it's coming to the understanding, and when you find out where they're coming from, it's like, oh, well, you considered this perspective. What about? And then we can educate.
You know what's coming to mind?
I'd love to hear.
I think I want a talking stick. You might be familiar with a talking stick. It's a beautiful thing. Whoever is holding the stick. So if this was the stick, and while I have the stick, everyone listens. I've said my bit. I pass the stick along to the next person. And so that is an indication that I'm not. But you know what I would like on the end of that big stick? A great big rubber ear. Because the answer answer to everything we're talking about is using our ears in a two-way conversation. If you're ranting, you're not listening to anything because all that power over into a conversation. And to our earlier point, Suzanne, when you were telling your story, whatever they're saying, there's 10% truth in there, even if on, but the conversation must go on as we're listening. Conversation. You won't be in conversation. So for your Aspies, listen intently. What say, even if it might be coming across a little rude because they don't know another way. Like, I wouldn't have known what to call. I would see you. I think, Suzanne, when we first met, you said, you're autistic. And I said, you don't have to identify yourself every time we speak. You don't need to label yourself. So we have to be careful about that. You might just, what I need is really, if you slow down a little bit and rephrase it, I would like to really understand. That's where you really let people in say, no, you didn't understand. People in society, I have to then come back and say, I can say that. I must not have said it in a comprehensive learn. They're so full of ego that they don't even live in the planet.
Oh, yes. I was just going to say the entitlement. Older, I'm more senior, I'm more this. And people feel that they have the seniority. It's okay to be rude. It's not never okay to be rude.
No.
Let's go back to the quote I put in. Think twice before you speak. That means let's find a way to say something to someone such that I feel like I need a piece of furniture, my needs better versus I don't like it. It's to say things. And I think that we need to help both sides understand that there's a woman here. You don't get to be better. And I know, Sandra, you and I had that conversation a long time ago. I don't have to label myself. But I guess what I always felt was that by it helped people understand I was capable of great ideas. Again, out into society and my friends, I was capable. So I guess I did a negative whenever I labeled myself. I wanted to be the torchbearer that I talk about. You may be autistic.
But you set me up, you see. In that case, then you set me up to treat you differently. You don't need, there's going to be some, but the treating differently would be the same with Susan. We're going to set each other up for failure if we label ourselves in any way, rather than listen to the conversation. Really do need differently. My sister thought I would embarrass her in the interview because I'm such a rapid fire. My brain just goes tit, 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 and I see the whole thing. She is introspective and needs to take it in and think about it. So she thought I might embarrass her. No, it's I'll give you time to do your thinking. It's looking at people need time to think. It's just I need a little more time because I want to really learn it. And when I really learn it, you're going to be really happy.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I want to bring up a quick point because a lot of of us who were misdiagnosed, clinical ADHD, by the C. And what would happen to us is that we would get medicated and we were supposed to fix us. And what I want to say is that while I may have to understand that words do affect me, Coach, language, and you'll find is very important. That's why I wanted to ask you to be on my panel today, because I was coaching positives to feel like they are unique, qualified individuals instead of, well, she's disabled. I hit the D at the end of disabled, but I also words come at me with spear, not with throwing a paper at me. And so I need aware that there is a happy medium between how I take something that someone says versus letting it be an arrow to my heart. And so that's an interesting way for people to, yes, notice what you're noticing. Notice who you are and recalibrate how you react to things. The next one is opportunities. I'm sorry, go ahead, Susan.
That's a rich concept.
Was when Sandra talked about the talking stick.
Ear, an ear.
Thank you, ear. We also need a plus eye, because our ears, they don't listen. Listening is hearing plus, and that's where all those beliefs go. So on the one hand, we need to learn how we interpret and how we else and what their interpretation might be. It's like the Zen of listening, where you're outside the interactions and the interpretations going on all over the place. And that's where like that sincere interest, true compassion, judgment in exchange for understanding.
I love that. Yes, yes. I'm going to now talk about the Aspie woman going into society for herself, because so often what's happened is they may or may not get their voice and they go into society, we lose so many opportunities. Talk his way through an interview, sit on the job and do nothing. Whereas like, because answer your question in 2 seconds flat, I don't get the job because a neurotypical person who walked in and gave you a bunch of BS that made it sound they get to doing anything. How can we help industry leaders realize of how it's answered? Because I find that to have ideas, you need to realize that it's not going to come out immediately, but it may be a much better answer who answered in the interview. And I saying, get the job, I don't have to do anything now.
I think one of the things in that situation, in that interview setting, is just, when somebody asks you that question, say, now just let me take a moment, because I really want to, I really care about what you're asking, and I want to make sure I give you the best answer I can give you.
I like that.
Nice.
That.
I think this brings us right back into the yes and. It's to keep the conversation going. If we're doing the yes and, letting the conversation go, that's kind of what you're doing. Before you go to an interview, you can actually practice. If you write it out and say it, is that what you wanted them to really hear? Oh, no, not really. Okay, so rewrite it. Where there's some words that are not positive, rewrite it with that. And then call Suzanne and read it to them. And what are you hearing? What are you hearing? See, at the end of every year, I write a letter to my clients. And what I used to hand it to my common law fellow at the time, and he'd say, oh, I'm not educated. I don't know. I don't need any of that. I'm not in the mailbox with that. What are you reading? What are you seeing? Well, right here, I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, I need to clean that up in the mailbox. So it doesn't matter who it is. You can read that back to Susan Postanek or to Suzanne Plumley, to me. You can read it back to anybody. And is it falling right? What are you getting from it? And if they're not getting what your intention is, write it. Rewriting and practicing what you say looks after those. Oh, we've all had. I wish I'd thought at the time. That's what I would have said. Well, before you go to the interview, you research the company and what the job is they need to get done. You ask somebody, explain why you are the one that's going to give the dedication. But you do practicing and doing your writing and your scripting before. So when that part of the conversation comes up, your thinking is already done to pull that out of the drawer. What about you, Susan? What do you do as an interviewer?
I think as an interviewer, I really want to hear who the person really is, and I that that person is giving me their true self. And it's a lot of open-ended questions, and I really want to hear how they respond, and ask the same question more than once to see how they in different times with different wording. You know, I'm giving me a canned answer that.
Other thing, if you're interviewing with somebody, the interviewer doesn't have the patience to be kind within the interviewing, you probably don't want to work there anyhow. Take it as a defeat on yourself. I wouldn't even want to work here.
Right. My biggest challenge. Oh, I can go. Sorry. Go ahead, Susan.
There was one time I had applied for a job, and they set up this interview, and my parents here for a day from the UK. I had one day to have that with the whole family, and we all planned to go to the Wild Animal Park together by Sandy. They called me to set up this interview, and that was the only day they could do it. I said, "Are you sure you can do it?" You know, a couple days later on the Thursday, or the next day, or whatever. Oh no, not possible. So I went off to the Wild Animal Park with, and got that all planned, and then the morning of the interview, they said, "Oh, wait, you could come tomorrow instead." It was the time I had asked for. Wow. And I said, "Oh," and then the next morning, I called them at 7 a.m. and canceled it. I got to have no consideration for my family, one iota of me as a person, as a human, as your employee. All you care to change.
So you were going line no matter what when you got that kind of a job?
No.
Yeah. Yeah. I do find a lot of us Aspies, and I just say that again because I just want to. And they say it's a numbers game. And I get that. But at the same time, the amount of we put out in an interview, only to hear, and this has happened to me more than once in the school education fields. You were wonderful, but we gave it to a better suited candidate. Knew it was someone who didn't have quirks, or whereas I could want to keep hearing you were wonderful, but you were great, but we gave it to a better. And this is where my experiences come, is the principal that was just waiting for an opportunity to fire me, want to deal with me.
That you got around to say, I am Aspie, and a wonderful part of the Aspie is once they've got it, I'm here, I'm loyal, I'm many people that interview say, well, you're wonderful, but when I hear that, I know how dedicated and how skilled in the job, because I think first there'll be fewer mistakes, because I care and I appreciate having that job. That but won't matter more for you than the said, oh, I can do it, but they take the time off, they don't show up to work, but they don't have the dedication. I think you could use that.
And I like that.
When I first came to the area, I had I was a school. That's why, doing things three different ways is really just a natural, and that's what. But I ended up being a waitress and when I applied Wandolin Inn, which was a new hotel in town, at that time there were 400 applicants for 40 positions. No Aspies. There's a whole lot of people knows.
And
400 people for 40 jobs. Sorry, Susan, go ahead.
Well, the other thing is, it's not only an asset in terms of the things you bring. You can help those kids who are having issues, those kids with behavioral issues that don't get understood by the other teachers. You bring a complementary skill set that they might not realize is important. And it's up to you to let them know your being special is necessary. This special, I know special skills of abilities and a special level of understanding that and some of these things need to be portrayed in the interview and on the job when they're starting to put you into that. It's like, no, I want you to understand why you need me. You can add.
Right. Oh, gosh. Yeah. No, I would love to have had that principal time to explain that, because you're out of here. Instead of understanding what went on, how come there were problems, because this one little boy that accused me of hitting him, I tried to take him into a room, and they didn't see that. They only saw what they think they saw.
And
So
the Suzanne today would have continued conversation whether they liked it or not, or brought it back at some.
Yeah, they didn't give me that opportunity. We're all at get the family to understand can be autistic, even if they can speak clearly and have no decent someone if it is late diagnosed. They need to know that he's on new stresses and the traditional 8-hour job is emotionally is not. It's a lot of sensory, a lot of different standing on our feet, and while we try and hold our composure for us to do the normal job, but families often say to us, "It's just," but it's like they don't. It's exhausting for us, and while we may have great conversation, be the same person we were at 18, at 25, at 40, that doesn't mean that we're still the same person. We have new challenges. I've been finding out this year. I have new challenges, and I've found coping for myself, but some women are not sure. So, what I could do at 25 have the energy to do now. How can we help families? Family support. I'm at the point where for who they are, and that's exactly what we're supposed to do. Accept them for who they are. Man, that hurts. That family that does not validate that our needs have changed. That our while we may diagnose at 18 doesn't mean we're not. Have a comment on that?
When this happens, when you respond this way, when you say this, it hurts me. It makes me feel less than. It makes me sad. From there, they love you, Char. They will be willing to listen and understand. Just the honesty. This when you say it this way, acknowledge what I'm asking you that I need.
Sometimes some families go a little bit controlling that. Oh, well, if you're autistic, then you're disabled. It's like, no, I'm not disabled. I just have different needs now.
I think as well, for my point, I have felt the sting of excommunication. At some point, there's going to be some families that just, you're going to get through to them. They're not to the conversation. They're not open. They're just in a very deep way, or with a very deep, in all ways, but maybe on that topic. So I have felt the sting of excommunication, and the reason I say it's okay is because the strength to know that I am fine and I can contribute my own way. But I don't, it's again, that's not okay. I'm going to expect that is mine. So even though the family, basically, the family culture, Sandra has to go. Change that they're wonderful people. Doesn't change that when somebody died, I still went to the funeral. Those things. It's just the day-to-day. There's no connection anymore on the day-to-day, and that really hurts. But that I have to. It does help, because there's that little piece of sadness in there, but that's okay. Piece of sadness in your panty drawer, wrapped in velvet. You know how you tuck a little special drawer, but wrap it in velvet first, and know you're fine.
I was just going to say that, Susan. What would you recommend to the Aspie? I felt estranged from their family. He said, one thing I'll go over later. You're my tactful communication team leader. and you help women on feet confidently. But once the women are ready to put on put their shoulders back and talk correctly and go into society, we need to help them understand that the family members are just not going to get it. We just have to throw that ball against the wall and change them. They're not going to change.
And you're going to be very tired. What do you do with that, Susan?
You accept. There is an acceptance of what you can't change, and recognize that is their limitation. That is their limiting belief, their limiting level of knowledge.
I want to thank you so much. Any fires on communication matter before?
I'm just going to said ability, and that's okay. I always come back. He is it? Whose circus is it? Is it mine to change? No, get your hand off it. If it's mine to change because I need to change something, change it. But I love that. That's to say that's their cultural belief. That's their limiting belief. But I'm not aware. They were called on me. I'm there. Back to Susan.
Yes, you're that word, Susan.
Oh, I just want to thank you, Suzanne, for pulling. So beautiful to meet you. What a wonderful group of women, each other, but also towards the world. Just thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your time today. Next week on the Aspie Bridge, I have Whitcomb Marsh, and we're talking about helping the Aspie woman go from her, where she might have been there up until 5, you could handle the world, and helping her go in society and learn some of the basic home needs, the basic transportation needs, money management, and relationships, and help her to understand best benefit and not. And I hope you'll come back. Thank you so much, ladies, for coming today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
You as well.
Thank you. I'm going to turn off.
Recording stopped.